Good evening, everyone. Are we all well? Yes. You're welcome. Is there anyone here who's come here from outside Aberdeen? From outside Aberdeen, apart from Jim, of course. Anyone at all? Well, you're all welcome anyway. This is the third gala, as Nicholas said. And I'll first of all like to just start by welcoming Jim. Can we all put our hands together for Jim? We're really honoured that you've come to speak at this event. I'm going to make this event almost like a church event to a certain extent. I'm going to say something and you have to respond. So I could start by saying, a bit of call and response. So I'm going to start by saying AFBE-UK Scotland is 5. Yay. This needs a bit of work, I think. This is the third gala event we're holding. Yay. Yes, now you get it. Every year that we've held this event, what we try to do is reflect the current climate or what's happening in industry. And so in 2012, when we had one of these events, our focus was on the green economy, because at that time, everyone was worried that we were spending too much time burning oil and gas and perhaps not focusing on alternatives. In 2014, we were talking about turning our hands to business. This year, 2016, it's been all about survival because such has been the nature of things in the industry. I actually think that, although we didn't tell him, the newsletter that you've got there actually reflects, I think, what the industry looks like. It's a picture of the dark North Sea, but it's also a reflection, I think, of the times in which we are in this industry. What's also interesting on there is that you see against that backdrop a very colourful and shiny AFBE-UK Scotland logo. And really that reflects what we've been trying to, is the message we want to send, because despite the things and the difficulties that we've seen in the industry, AFBE-UK Scotland has actually seen quite a lot of improvement and a lot of progress. And really that's what we want to celebrate today. And I was just going to go through all of the things that we've done, and just to tell you that, and talk about the challenges that the industry faces, and talk about how we think our programs are addressing them. The first thing is, if people were to ask us, what would you say in a sentence AFBE-UK Scotland is about? And the answer is quite simple. We exist to help young people get into engineering. Simple. That's our whole objective. And the reason for that is if you read a lot of the reports that have been issued, they've been talking about a skills gap in engineering. The 2015 Engineering UK report highlights that the economy can make something like £27 billion a year, has the potential. Engineering employers have the potential to generate 27 billion per year from 2022. Now, the only obstacle, the report says, is it lies with education and the fact that not many people are taking STEM roles or studying STEM subjects. And that's the type of thing that we tried to address. Now, this time, 2 years ago, STEM in our program, in our whole suite of programs, was nothing more than a bullet point and a PowerPoint slide. Since then, we've been successful with the help of the Aberdeen City Council and under the leadership of Jide. Where's Jide, by the way? Are you there? Yes. Let's put our hands together for Jide. Under his leadership, we have been successful in reaching over 200 students and young people in schools with the engineering program. Now, I remember a friend of mine once saying that she was talking about her country, and she said, her lecturer used to say that if you throw a stone into my country, says you probably hit a thief. And she said, if you throw a stone into the southern part of Nigeria, you'll probably hit a professor. It could be easily said that about Aberdeen, that if you throw a stone into Aberdeen, you'll hit an engineer, because there's so many of us. So that it may seem a bit strange that we are talking about the skills gap in the context of Aberdeen. But I remember 2015, when we had our Next Gen event. I remember Jonathan Watt, a young 14-year-old, who his father is an engineer, said to me after the program, says, there's a lot more to engineering than people think. And I thought, this is quite strange, given that his father is an engineer. But not too many people know about the engineering profession. I remember the event we had at Camehill School just this March. After listening to a lady called Myrtle Rose Padmore, who works for Shell, talking about her job as a production technologist, this young girl walked up to her and said, after listening to you, I know what I want to do when I grow up, which was quite a nice reminder. If you look in the newsletter that we've got on your chair, what we have there is a story about Fauzia Amao, who was a young 17-year-old in London who went along to one of our Make Engineering Hot programs, which is an equivalent of Next Gen. Went along to one of those programs in 2010, and because of that, she was actually inspired to go and study civil and structural engineering at the University of Leeds, and she's completed that now, and she's now doing a degree in, she's now been offered a job with Atkins, and that's as a result of the type of work that AFBE has been doing. So part of the reason, or part of the problems that we want to address is the skills gap. The second aspect is something that we had the opportunity to talk about earlier this year. Edwin and I went to a very wonderful building at the University of Sheffield called the Diamond, and we were presenting a paper which was looking at the survey that groups like the IET have done, which highlight that 53% of employers say that the graduates who go into employment very often are not industry ready. They don't have the business soft and hard skills. Now, the report also emphasized the need for academic institutions to work with industry. And there are many of these programs. The problem with a lot of those programs is that the best ones are highly competitive. So you end up in this situation where the very people who need to have these who need to have these skills they lose out on those places, because the people that get through very often already have those business soft and hard skills that is needed to make a successful transition. So that we presented our model, which is a three-part series. You got the employability seminars, and we'll show you a video of that later in the program today. We've got the employability seminars, we've got the real projects as led by this man here, Cassie, and we have the shadow learning based on real projects that you do with students in university. We also presented the results of a recent survey that we did based on people that have been through these programs. And our survey showed that 50% of young people that have been onto the programs that we've been organizing, 50% of the people that took the survey informed us that they were able to secure a job within 6 months. That number went up to 70% over a 12-month period. Overall, about 78% of people that have been on these programs since 2012, when we set it up, tell us that they believe that the transition program in general has helped them. So those are the things that we've been doing, and we were quite successful last year with one of the papers that we wrote that was also based on some of the work we've been doing here in Aberdeen. And that paper has now been included in a book called Engineering and Enterprise, and that's on the back page of your newsletter. I promise you I don't get any money for you buying the book, but we would like to recommend that you read it, because there are some very interesting articles there. I'll pay the London South Bank who published it the money for doing this, or they'll pay me for doing this after this program. So that's the other thing. The third aspect is to do with diversity. The reports from Engineering UK and the Royal Academy of Engineering highlights that within the engineering profession, I think there is something like 6% of people who work in engineering are from black and minority ethnic origin. About 9% of the engineering workforce in this country is female, only 9%. And what we want is, if we're really serious about addressing the skills gap that exists in engineering, we must have those targeted campaigns that reaches out to everyone. I remember attending an event at the IET Partnerships last December, and I got asked the question that, how can you, if we say that the event is really to open engineering up to everyone, why do we have such targeted campaigns? And my response to that is that I believe, personally, I see it like bringing other people into the party. So it should never be about exclusion, it should be about bringing everybody in. So that's the other thing that we've been doing as an organization. So that, so generally a lot of our programs are, we've had quite a lot of success. I mentioned that 200 pupils have been through the programs that we do in schools. We've had over 350 students go through the transition program. And many of these have continued to encourage us to keep going, keep moving. So that's one of the things that we would like to share. So you may be listening to this and wondering, how do I get involved, or how can I help? Well, we've got a number of suggestions for you. You could follow us on Twitter. Never underestimate the power of a retweet. It's amazing how much influence you can get. And something I say to the team is, please go on our website, like everything, even if you don't like it. Just go ahead and do that, because when you do, somebody else finds out about what we're doing and is able to support us. You can host an event. You could host one of our real project seminars, in which we've looked at, it's equivalent of about 20 to 30 hours of continuing professional development. And you could come along to one of those, and at the same time, you could come along and help out. You could do a talk for us. You could host the event in your company. You could become a subscribed member. It's about £30 a year to become a member of AFB, and about £5 to become a student member. And that would just be a little support to the work that we're doing, because AFB is 100% funded by members. We don't have any external sources of funding. Another thing that you could do is your company can be a corporate member of AFB. We as an organization, we're about 9 years old, 5 years here in Scotland, but we've been quite fortunate to have a lot of people within the industry have been quite open to us. And so having your company support one of our programs, I'd like to believe, is mutually beneficial. The other thing you can do is if you come along to one of our programs and you decided something that you like, or something you'd like to support, you can give us, you can help support it financially. But again, we would like you to just see what we're doing, and if it's something that you are interested in supporting, we would be very grateful to get that support. The last few things I will say is really just to applaud the team that we have here in Scotland. We started this about 5 years ago, and I've been very often amazed at the level of dedication that people have shown. It reminds me of a talk I heard when I was just 20, which looked at the 5 Ps of success. I was listening to a speaker, and he said something about purpose and why it was important that if you have a goal, that you also have a very clearly defined purpose for what you're doing. And that for any purpose to succeed, a plan must be put in place, because he who fails to plan plans to fail, as the saying often goes. I learned that for every plan to succeed, there is a price to be paid, and that very often what keeps you going is a passion. So purpose, plan, price, passion. And very often I've seen this in the team, the members of the AFBE team, where people have spent time, you see people who've been told that they're going to be made redundant, who still come along and helped out with the programs that we're doing. We've seen people give their time and their resource to make this a success. And I really just want to applaud them today. So the focus of this event is just looking at what the current climate demands of us. We believe that we need to be, in order to be relevant in today's world, in order to survive, we need to be people who are enterprising, people who are not multifaceted, people who have numerous skills and numerous ways in which we can respond to the challenges that we face today. And we look forward to listening to what Jim has to say about the enterprising engineer. So once again, I would just like to applaud members of the team for everything that they've done and just to thank them. So can we all just give them a round of applause? So Obi's just going to show us a brief video, and what this is the campaign we've had in schools this year. Thank you.